Well, welcome everybody to Max Kids webinar. We are your hosts, Dr. Mark and
Janelle.
Here we go. Let's get started. We got a lot of work to do.
They picked us because we have parenting all figured out.
Yep. So we're perfect parents.
Perfect.
We do everything perfect. Our kids are perfect in every way.
Mm-hmm.
They make perfect decisions with their foods and their health and
discipline. They listen all the time.
They always go to bed early, and it's just super easy. So we're just going to share with you how easy it is and how nobody should ever have any struggles with this at all.
No.
Yeah. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be thoroughly discouraged and ready to quit.
No.
Actually, we have 4 kids. We know how this goes. And through lots of different ages of children, how to raise healthy kids has been a journey. It's been a challenge. It's been a struggle. We've had to learn a lot. We've gotten to learn a lot. We're really thankful for what's been poured into us when it comes to knowledge and wisdom and mindset tips and strategies. And so we feel like we need to pass that on to you guys. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We'll run through some really solid, fun information, and hopefully by the end of this, you're gonna feel empowered. You're gonna feel encouraged to get after it and raise some healthy kids. So without further ado, let's get after it ourselves here. These are our kids.
Oh, they're so cute.
So these are kids who, well, they were born at home. So we liked to do home births. Yeah, I birthed these babies at home. It was very, very challenging. So they're born at home.
Sorry.
We're so thankful we got poured into to the point where they didn't have to take any drugs. They've never taken drugs. We've not needed to do doctor visits. Now, if there's an emergency, we would obviously go to an emergency care system and get emergency care.
Urgent care, stitches.
Yes, we've gotten stitches. Mm-hmm. We've played that game, but we haven't done doctor visits. They haven't taken drugs. They're smart. They're active. They are well connected. They aren't perfect. That's not the point, but they're definitely healthy and uninterfered with. And it's not a coincidence. I'm very thankful, but it is a result of doing the things that we have been shown how to do and learning how to raise them differently from what most parents are doing out there. And so we are very thankful for it. And when we go to the Max Living seminars, it's really interesting. We see all the different kids that are there. And these are kids that live the same lifestyle. They eat the same type of foods. They get adjusted and they keep their nervous systems calm. They're living this natural way of keeping the immune system strong. And the common denominator is that all these kids at the Max Living seminars are healthy. So these are Max Living Doctors kids. I really can't think of even one of them out of the hundreds that I know of that has asthma or autism or is even on a medication at all. They're just healthy, unmedicated, connected kids, and the babies are well connected and alert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think at every stage, we want our kids to know that they are loved by God, loved by us, and perfectly made in his image. And we see health as a platform to teach that. And so we see health and how their bodies were created as a platform to teach that they are made in the image of God. And I think that's a disconnect often in the church and in Christian homes is we teach you're perfectly made by God, your soul, your spirit, your heart, your personality, but we don't extend it into the physical body. And so we're pressing for interventions, or we're pressing for, oh, you have a headache, your body, God must have forgot to put Advil in your bloodstream. And so let's give you Advil. And so we just see the health extension, the health education of our kids as an extension of the premise we want the foundation of their life to be laid on. And so at each stage of our kid's life, we are super intentional, whether it's the 3-year-old or the 12-year-old that's about to hit puberty, of how do we infuse in them that their body was made by God, designed by God, and isn't lacking anything.
Yeah, exactly. And we're always looking for opportunities to have those conversations. We want opportunities to empower our kids, and the opportunities come up all the time. I mean, how many times did Luke scrape his knee this
Right.
summer?
Right.
It seemed like 9 million times. Like he scraped his knee like multiple times a day. And so when the scraped knee happens, you have a choice as a parent. You have an opportunity to empower. It's like, so, well, hey, buddy, like your knee is healing from the inside out. And it's like, well, can I get a Band-Aid on it? Yeah, absolutely. You put that Band-Aid on, and it's like, now, the Band-Aid doesn't do the healing. The Band-Aid is just there to keep dirt from getting into the scrape and into the blood and all that. Your body actually does the healing from the inside out. So when he sees his knee start to heal, he actually repeats that and parrots that to us. He's like, hey, my knee's healing. I'm healing my knee. Like Band-Aid's just keeping it from getting dirty. It's like, yeah, exactly. Right. And those are empowering messages. We were at church the other day, and my son was about to get he was like looking at the hand sanitizer because there were another couple kids using the hand sanitizer. I was like, hey, buddy, you don't need that. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, like, how like bacteria is all throughout our bodies, and like good bacteria sort of runs our immune system, because I've talked to him about that before. He's like, yeah, Dad. So when you take hand sanitizer, what bacteria does it kill? Oh, I guess it kills all of them, right? So you actually can keep your bacteria in balance by keeping the good bacteria on your hands, on your skin. And he was infused with empowerment about how God designed his body. And sure enough, he's got a great immune system, and he follows these principles because we've just talked about them in these little conversations from time to time.
Mm-hmm. I think it was baby Aaliyah that had a hangnail and wanted it. I was like, hey, I need to cut your I need to cut this hangnail off. And she's like, no, Mama, it'll heal. Right. And so infusion at every stage, that the body is brilliant. It's not like anything, and your body will heal.
So our current times are weird. And since COVID, really health has been the big topic of conversation, maybe more than any other time in the history of our country, especially when it comes to kids. And what's difficult and what can be frustrating is this divide that happens. So now the conversation might not be like masks versus no masks. I know that was real hot for a while. Now the conversation, though, is, do I trust in medicine, or do I do the crunchy mom thing? It's like, do I bathe my kids' hands and their entire lives in sanitizer to avoid germs? Or do I keep my kids exposed, and will that strengthen their immunity? And then it's like, do I take the antibiotic, or do I use essential oils and let their body heal? Follow the vaccine schedule, or don't vaccinate at all, or do some of them. And that's the big conversation that's going on right now when it comes to health with parents. And there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and confusion. And so part of this is we want to get common sense principles over to you that you can use to make your decisions. So we're not just showing you, hey, this is the food to give your kid, or this is the toxin to avoid. It's let's parent out of a set of principles and out of a paradigm of natural health, so that they can be successful in all of those different essentials.
We are really testing on this generation. Like, there has never been another generation that has had the amount of screens that we've had, or the amount of wireless devices that we've had, or 5G towers, or GMO foods, or, hey, let's wear watches on our wrists that have EMF on them, and let's give them to all of our kids. Oh, and by the way, let's have them carry cell phones in their pockets right next to their reproductive organs, and let's hope it works out okay. And so we are testing on a generation. And so part of this paradigm for us is standing up and saying, no, you cannot test on our kids. Like, no, we don't want that 5G. No, we don't want them to have devices and the activity that is expected by the community or is expected by peers. And so we are diligently working against a system that says, we could be okay. Well, we'll see in 10 years, maybe 20 years, we'll figure it out. And so we are really intentional with the decisions we make, because there's all this new stuff that's just being tried on our kids, and we're not okay with it.
And what they are finding out is that kids now are dealing with chronic diseases. And so let me just back up onto this one here. 25% of American children have a chronic disease. So this whole idea of like, let's just test on our kids is not actually working. Some of the top chronic diseases that are affecting kids. So asthma is worse than it's ever been. I see it all the time now in kids. And it didn't used to be that way, even when I first got into practice. And it's continued to rise and rise and rise. But they keep blaming what? They say, well, it's genetic. like, oh, of course, so your mom had asthma. But if you blame genetics, you got to realize this: genes don't change from generation to generation. So if the prevalence is increasing, then it's what we're doing that's increasing it. So we got to get to the cause of what's triggering this inflammation and autoimmune disease. Diabetes type 2, when the body becomes insulin resistant, entirely lifestyle induced, and it increases every year. And it's worse than it's ever been, and it's worse than anywhere else in the world. So again, it's what we're doing that's creating this type 2 diabetic situation, even in kids. Obesity, we'll get to this more, but more children are overweight and obese than ever before. And kids aren't supposed to be fat. That's a problem. ADHD and autism, highest percentage ever diagnosed with both of those by a lot. And it's increasing yearly. Depression, suicide is the second highest cause of death in adolescents right now, according to the CDC. In depression, it is so sad to see a kid who is depressed. Kids shouldn't be depressed. So there's an underlying cause there that's creating that. And then malnutrition, it's like, well, how can that be in the United States, malnutrition? But it's because I thought they were fat, right? I thought they were obese. It's not that they're aren't being fed. They're actually overfed, but they're undernourished. And so when you get into some of these, you wouldn't really think that this is something that would apply to us, this malnutrition thing, because you think of like sick and emaciated looking, that's undernutrition. But again, we are already overfed. It's just we're not getting the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, and the good fats that actually bring nourishment to the kids' cells and their brains and their bodies. So this is where just getting a good baseline foundation for the kids' health can set them up for success in all these different health outcomes. When it doesn't happen, when they don't get proper nutrition because they're not eating high nutrient density foods, how does it show up? Low energy. If kids are low energy, kids should not have low energy. They should be bouncing off the walls. And if they have low energy and they're lethargic, then they're not absorbing nutrients, not being able to focus at school, hormone issues, and then like psychological problems like depression and getting angry all the time and withdrawal, and then even obesity.
We are really diligent in talking to our kids about foods as it relates to what types of energy they give you. And so we will talk about, hey, this is short-term energy, this is long-term energy. Like you're about to play a football game this afternoon, and so you need long-term energy. That is protein-dense foods. What on your plate is long-term energy?
That's right.
When they're not feeling great and they're under the weather and they're expressing health, and it's like, okay, well, what types of foods are going to help your cells heal? Your cells are doing the healing. Your body is doing the healing. But what types of food on your plate should you be eating more of? And so we talk about nutrition with our kids on the cellular level so that they can process it and understand, oh, what goes in my mouth affects every cell in my body, every organ in my body, and is going to translate into how much energy I have to play with my friends, how much energy I have to go out in the community, play with my peers, be high energy at school, play football at recess.
Yeah, like I think back when I was a kid, it's like I wouldn't eat avocados and chia seeds like that. It looks terrible. But if you were to say like, hey, this is brain power for you. This is energy for later on when you have football practice, or if like eating protein, like eating more chicken or more steak, it's like you talk to them about like this is what grows your muscles. This is what makes you strong. This is what gives you power, endurance, agility, speed. I'm in. Give me more protein. So framing it in that way so that they can understand it more and more. And then again, this obese thing is not supposed to happen. And it's not that carrying extra weight is the problem. It's the fact that the process, the habits, the lifestyle that causes a child to put on extra fat. Those are the same lifestyle issues that cause chronic disease and bad habits in adulthood. So it's really, what are you setting them up for in adulthood with these habits early on? It's not so much about the extra weight while they're a kid, but it really should be hard to gain weight and grow extra body fat as a child. Because if you think about it, they're growing so fast, their metabolism is on fire, absolute turbo mode. it's almost impossible to gain enough body fat if you're doing natural whole foods diets, um, and just living a normal kid's lifestyle. But why is that happening? Again, it's the habits that we are passing down, which is why you often see that parents with overweight kids are overweight themselves, because it's just the same type of lifestyle. So the question then comes to, okay, so then should kids actively try to lose weight if they are heavy? And I would say, well, yes and no. I would say no to fad diets, no to daily food restriction, no to any unreasonable pressure or crazy exercise programs, but yes to eating more natural whole foods and fats. Yes to eliminating processed sugar, processed grains, and all the inflammatory seed oils from boxed processed foods. Yes to drinking water and stopping the sugary flavored drinks. Yes to changing your eating times and how often they're snacking and just grazing throughout the day. Because the most overweight people, including kids, it's not that they're eating too much, but that they're eating too much insulin producing foods that actually sluggishly block up your metabolism.
Yeah, and in this, having that conversation about God-made foods versus man-made foods, like there are foods made by God and foods made by man, and so foods made by God support the system and the body that God made. And so let's step into more God-made foods. And we'll have that conversation when we have a kid that asks for another snack or another treat. It's like, well, how many treats have you had? You know, let's help them, empower them to make that decision. And what types of God-made foods have you had today? Because there's got to be that equal balance.
Like I said, the hardest thing to see is when kids are depressed. We had a situation where one of our kids had a head injury, they had a concussion, and it created a season of depression in him. It was so hard to watch a child not be happy and excited about their day and feel sad randomly at different times. And it's like, well, that was the result of a concussion, and worked with him, did all the things that we needed to do chiropractically and nutrition wise to get him to heal his brain from that injury. But kids without brain injuries or concussions are ending up with depression. And it usually overlaps with behavior issues, anxiety. So it's like, well, what's causing this? What's creating this? And one of the biggest things is just being sedentary. So kids just not moving enough. Their brains and their bodies require exercise. And what amplifies their happy hormones and happy neurotransmitters more than the things that we would think, like watching funny movies or even certain foods, is exercise itself. So just moving their bodies a lot to the point of exhaustion, to the point of sweating. It's hard to find a depressed kid who's running around like crazy all day long. Poor diets. So inflammatory foods can create that lowered mood or mood swings. Not sleeping enough. And the thing is, like, your kids are going to end up waking up at the same time every day. So even if we were going camping and it's like we stayed up till 11:30 midnight or something like that, and they woke up the time they normally wake up. And so like they're going to wake up like that. So sleep is huge for emotional health, because that can create that depression and moodiness. Time pressure, kids struggle with being busy. A lot of pressure around times and deadlines, and that's hard for a kid's brain to handle, that just can't do it. So to be aware of that, if you're noticing kids getting moody or depressed. Social isolation leads to depression. Chronic stress leads to depression. And it's not that the kid is stressed out about all the work that he or she has to do. It's not like it's them being stressed from school. Chronic stress in a child, more often than not, is their parents' stress that they are absorbing because they're in the home also.
That's never happened in our house.
No. So we've read about this.
We've read about it
in lots of books. We read lots of books about this. Actually, we don't need to read a single book about this, because when things have been stressful, like whether it's with the business or with family issues or whatever the thing is that's going on, like, it is clockwork when you see how your kids respond and what behaviors they exhibit and how their mood changes and how their whole countenance changes.
So let's be cause-driven parents. Like, let's be parents that desire to pursue the cause of what's happening. So instead of saying, hey, teacher raises a white flag and says, hey, I've noticed your kid's struggling with some mood swings at school. You go to a doctor and you take a pill and you say, hey, kid, you need to take this pill. It's going to help you be happier at school. It's like, that is not the cause. The cause is not that God did not put a drug in their body that would make them happier. The cause is something real that it's our job as parents to get curious about and be intentional with that curiosity to say, hey, spouse, like, I'm noticing this, or you noticing this? Okay, great. We're on the same page. Let's get curious together about our kid and let's study them. Let's take notes. Let's look for patterns. Let's do a food log with them. Like, let's be really diligent so we can say, hey, this is the cause. We're going to address the cause, change the cause, talk to our kids about it, and see change over time.
Absolutely. Yep. And so what's the answer? So what do we do with all of this stuff, with all these potential problems? Well, you can prevent them. Now, here's the thing. Here's your recipe for what to do. But what I want to go into this with is a different perspective than just prevention. See, health isn't really complicated. It's disease that's complicated. It's when.
Wait, can you say that again? Really
health is not complicated. Health is simple. Disease is complicated. Treating symptoms reactively is very complicated. So with our kids, we don't want to think in terms of just preventing disease, because then the focus is on disease. But it's not just avoiding disease, preventing disease. It's about building health. Because if you build enough health, if you just go on offense with your health, then there's no room for disease to live in that body. You think back hundreds of years ago, there wasn't much thought probably about prevention of disease, but it was probably just all about doing the things that they know to do, that they've always done, that keeps their bodies going. And so building health is the idea. So they can live their fullest, happiest lives, live up to their potential, come alive with vitality, and not end up this statistic for autoimmune diseases and medications and being sick all the time. So go on offense, not just defense. We can't drug our way to health. So just treating symptoms is never going to increase health if there's an underlying problem. This is the main philosophy when it comes to the 5 essentials. How do we then get our kids healthy? They're already healthy. Health is already inside of them. So that's the answer. So think back to the day that you were first born, or when your firstborn was born. So you have this little baby, holding this tiny little baby, and it's like, wow, look at the eyes, look at the nose, look at the little the feet and the toes and everything. Like, what an absolute miracle. Like, this is a miracle, this baby. How in the world did two cells come together and then divide, and then this comes out? Like, this is incredible. It's like, well, when did that miracle leave your baby? Like, when did the miracle leave? But we get distracted from that miracle, and it's babies getting first removed from mom's arms, and then it's the injections, it's the light therapies, it's the recommendations to formula feed, right? And then we accept this as normal, but it's not necessarily normal. What's normal is that baby is a miracle and remains a miracle. So we are miracles still. You are still a miracle and have the same level of miracle that you had in you when you were a newborn baby, and your kids do too. It's just about drawing out that perfection and that miracle and allowing it to express like it was designed to, by removing what's interfering. So the 5 essentials is not a formula for necessarily what to do. It's, here are the areas where your health can be interfered with. If you just go with these basics and lay the foundation, the platform for health grows. It's like a plant. Just give it what it needs: soil, water, sunlight, oxygen, and the plant grows. So when a plant is wilting, you wouldn't think, what color should I spray paint the leaves? If it's not in the sun, you move it into the sun. If you haven't watered it, you give it water. So in the same way, when your kids are having health issues, it's like you look at the essentials and you just think, what's missing from their essentials? Is their nervous system super overactive? Are they hyper stressed out, and are they tense and not sleeping well, not digesting well? Maybe then they need their nervous system taken care of through chiropractic. Are they eating life-giving foods, or are they eating more processed non-foods or food-like products? What is their mindset? What are they thinking about? What's being put into their brains, and how are their brains being interfered with? And we'll get into that. And then oxygen and exercise is like, are my kids moving enough? Are they exercising to the point of exhaustion, or is it mostly sedentary throughout the day? And then toxins. It's like, are we allowing toxins to just go into, obviously you can't eliminate toxins, but if you can minimize toxins, it helps them grow health like they're supposed to. So think about the essentials for your kids. What essential is missing from my kids' lives to allow them to express health that God has already designed? That's the philosophy here. Little different than the treatment philosophy. So we want to get into these essentials, and we're going to start with mindset. And it's not so much just mindset, but actually how our bodies, how the kids' brains are working. And the hot topic right now when it comes to kids' brains is technology. Do you want to go over this here?
Yeah. So we are the very first generation that has had to parent kids with cell phones, both that they have cell phones and we have cell phones. So we are like the initiators of what does it look like for us to role model as parents, what technology use looks like in our homes. Where do our kids see us use our cell phones? How do they see us use our cell phones? And then what rules and expectations do we set for them with devices? We are not at a cell phone age with our kids, but we do have devices in our home. And so we're going to talk a little bit about expectations and what that looks like. But we are under the philosophy we're doing the wait till 8th grade. And so as it relates to personal devices for our kids. And one of the pieces to this for us is setting clear expectations in our home and clear boundaries in our home of how do we want, when our daughter Kara is a mom and has kids, where do we want her using her phone? And so we need to model that in our home now so that she replicates it as she becomes an adult. So it's not at meals. There's set times where my phone is in phone jail when I'm a mom, where I am just focused on my kids and being super, super diligent with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's the problems with like blue light. They look at the blue light, blue light is what's emitted from these devices, from these screens, and that interferes with their melatonin production. It interferes with their sleep, and it can create hormone problems through what's being picked up from their eyes. Yes, there's that. There's the fact that the screens keep them away from playing outside because it's so addictive and it's so rewarding, the way that these games and shows are being produced now, that they get stuck to them because of that reward. And they would literally rather do that than go and play catch outside or something like that. So there's that, but I really think it's the addiction and how it actually changes their brains that is the most alarming part of this. And this is the thing that parents often don't understand. And thankfully, I have the background in neuroscience and being able to understand changes in the brain. And I've read so much about this, so we've got to pass this on. Children's brains are more malleable than adults' brains. So if I were to, at my age now, get addicted to a game on my phone or
Candy
something,
Crush?
That's you. That's not me. I've never played that game for 1 minute because I think it's pointless. So like if I were to get addicted to something on the screen, like it would be less damaging to me. And this isn't giving you the permission to jump on Candy Crush, but
right.
Than it would be to the kids, because their brains are literally still forming physically. Physical abnormalities are being shown in brains with addiction to screens. Study it was actually back in 2012. It was in Chinese Academy of Sciences, shown that people with these addiction disorders with screens have physical abnormalities in their brains. It affects the integrity of the white matter in regions that control decision making. So just think in terms of your kids, when they come off of screens, impairing decision making, emotional control, social awareness, and attention spans. So this is why people addicted to their phones perform poorly in these areas. Their mental and emotional health gets thrown way off with screen time. And then it results in things like depression and frustration and exhaustion. And again, we don't need to read the books. We don't really need to look through the research. We've seen this. I mean, when our kids are on a screen, or if they get too much screen time or unrestricted screen time at some point, I can tell if that's been happening because of the way that they're either moody or angry or frustrated or just disappointed in everything. And because they get so much reward from what's on that screen, especially if it's something that is fast moving. So if they're dealing with like, YouTube shorts, or if they were to scroll through Instagram or TikTok or something like that, it is so much of a bombardment of stimulation that it's when you come off of it, everything else is disappointing. So what that's called is a supernormal stimulus, and it actually is above what our brains can handle, and it's for sure above what kids' brains can handle. So they come off of this supernormal stimulus, and everything else in the world is boring to them. It's not just boring, it's depressing, and their neurotransmitters for happiness plummet after they come off of that screen. And so then they're in this huge swings up and down throughout the day because they're either feeding their addiction and feeling good while they're feeding that, or they're feeling terrible because they're so disappointed with the normal things of this world that we've known to be so enjoyable.
It's like they live, it's a color world on these screens, and then they shut it off and they live in black and white, right? And so that extreme is what is happening in their brains. The good news is that kids' brains are malleable. And so if you are stuck in an addiction screen thing with your kids, it can change and you can reset what's happening. We are big fans of a huge screen fast, especially if we've been on a long road trip and we've had extra devices, extra screens, extra movies. We are super committed to, hey, it is 7 days of no devices and they are locked and we are done. And just to reset the brain chemistry, and then to set reasonable expectations for time and what it looks like in our home.
And it does. And that's the good news, is that they are malleable. So this dopamine addiction situation, if you remove the source of this fake dopamine, this non-reward centered dopamine, then they will actually start regrowing the receptors for natural, healthy dopamine. And within days, you'll see them start to enjoy being outdoors. You'll see them start to make up games with each other, building forts with the cushions and blankets, acting together, laughing together, singing together, playing tag outside, whatever it is. And that's literally happening because their brains are shifting back into a healthy response for dopamine. But we want to be aware of this, because still, if they spend most of their childhood addicted to screens, I guess common sense would say, and so does the research, they're going to be more apt to become addicted to these cheap dopamine hits later in life, which, as we all know, as adults, that turns into alcohol, drugs, and other things.
Yeah, we talked earlier about how they're testing on our generation, right? They're testing too. What does this type of technology do to kids? We have no idea. We have no idea what watching YouTube shorts does to kids over time. Mark made a list of like old movies we should watch with our kids. And we were watching, which one were we watching together?
Mighty Ducks.
Okay, Mighty Ducks. And it's like 45 minutes into the movie, there's still no hockey. Like, it's the slowest, because it made in the 80s, right? Early 90s. And the pace of the whole film is different. And our kids are like, where's the movie? Like, there should be a movie. Like, there should be bing, 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 bing.
Well, they've become so used to instant gratification. So that they won't wait for a movie to develop characters at the beginning. So now all the new movies, they don't develop characters. They just get right into it, because our kids are wired for instant gratification. And we as parents are the ones responsible for stopping that pattern and allowing our kids to develop normal levels of gratification for the things that God designed their brains to appreciate. And when we bombard with supernormal stimuli, that it overrides that, and it becomes an interference to their brains, which is an interference to their hormones and an interference to their mood, and it cascades from there. So we play a huge part in this, and I think we've beaten the horse pretty dead.
I know.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we're going to talk about screen addiction.
No, I just think, setting clear boundaries, setting clear parameters. I don't think there's anything else on my slide. You go back to my slide notes. Anything else I wanna talk
And then
about?
just leading by example, like you said.
And here's our biggest thing we said, you know what? We are not anti-group screen time. So we have defined group screen time in our home. What does that mean? We're all watching a movie together, right? Like we are all like we have an Xbox and it is in a common place and we will all play Xbox together. And so the other cool thing about like Xbox or movies is that think about your neck position, right? If you're looking at a TV, my neck is in a safer, more structural position than a kid looking at a device like this. And so it's the protect your neck concept. And it can be, we first put the Xbox up in a kind of an upper room in our home. And all of a sudden I'm like, I lost the kids for 30 minutes. Where are they? I lost the kids for an hour. Where are they? And so we moved it down to a common area so I can manage it while I'm cooking dinner. I can manage it while we're doing other things. And so we are not anti-screens. We're just defined group screen time.
You can use them for good. I mean, there's a lot to be said for learning your kids' favorite video games so that you can do it together, because that's actually really fun time together. And I don't think that's bad for your brain to be playing a game with your son who is really into this game, because otherwise they're going to be moving away from that. And you think back like watching TV together. Well, was there really anything wrong back in the day with like watching TGIF with your family? What was it? Started with Full House.
Full House.
And Family Matters.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all we watched for those two.
And then Step by Step.
Oh yeah.
And then I think it was the dinosaurs one kind of took over that fourth spot at the end. But like, was there anything wrong with that? Like, no, that was great time with family, and it's and that's a screen, but you're doing it together, and so it's something that's positive.
And so what do we think counteracts the most with screens is outdoor play. And so we are huge into outdoor play. We are huge into being the home in our neighborhood where there are kids on our lawn every day playing. And I actually sat in a Bible study about over a decade ago with this woman, Jenny Urick, and she said, hey, I have this idea, like what if parents started tracking hours outside? And you know what, I was thinking like 1,000 hours outside. Like, do you think parents could do 1,000 hours outside? And so we kind of talked through this with Jenny, and she went on to launch 1,000 hours outside. And so you can follow them on Instagram and on social media platforms. And the premise is commit to logging 1,000 hours outside every year. And obviously you have to get strategic, not as much in the summer months, but in the winter months. But what this has done for our family is that the tracking of it is actually a dopamine hit. It's a dopamine hit for me as a mom and for us as the kids. And so it's, hey, it's raining, let's go log 30 minutes. Hey, it's raining, let's go log an hour. Hey, it's super like warm outside. What can we do? Let's put a splash pad out. Let's put a sprinkler out. And so you can create dopamine you can like dopamine hits with logging activity that you're doing, whether that's step counting, whether that's, hey guys, I'm starting my watch. We're going to go for a 2-mile bike ride. And they're watching and they're paying attention and they're, how long, what are we at, mom? What are we at, mom? Or guys, we're going to walk a mile out. We're going to hike a mile out, hike a mile back. And so we measure things because that part of our brain links to dopamine and it gets us outside more. And so we're really big on tracking hours, being committed to time outside. The unique thing about 1,000 hours outside isn't necessarily that it's structured time outside either, but that it's free play. And so we're really big into go outside and make a big game, go outside and play with your friends, like it being a free, unorganized, unstructured play outside.
Yep, it's the best thing for the brains. Physical exercise is number one for childhood brain development. And there's a book on that called Spark by Dr. John Ratey. Spark is the name of the book if you're really into reading stuff. So so these pictures up here, I just pulled them from my phone this morning. I was like, wait a minute, there was just the other day, all these kids just randomly showed up at our house, bikes all over the place. It looked like a day in the mid 90s in the summer. And why? Because we just kicked them out of the house. We said, get out of here, quit looking at the screens, quit raiding the pantry for something sugary, like go find good, healthy dopamine. We didn't talk about dopamine with them, but it's like, go do the things that you're meant to do as a kid. And when they do, and they go out there, they make up these games, they do all this stupid stuff. They interact with the other kids and they're running around like crazy. They come in super sweaty, super exhausted, begging for ice water. Like that's a good day for kids. And that's a brain developing day, even if we don't think that way.
I thought chiropractors didn't like trampolines.
You gotta weigh things out. So like, could there be injuries on a trampoline? Yeah, absolutely. Could there be injuries in playing tackle football? Yes, absolutely. But what are the good things that come from something like a trampoline or even playing contact sports? They're going to learn how to protect their bodies. They're going to learn how to use their coordination.
Agility.
They're going to learn how to deal with pain and getting hit and dealing with those bodily things that happen, instead of putting your kid in a bubble and making sure that they never get hurt. I think they're going to be way better off in the long run learning how to come back from getting hurt or avoid getting hurt. And you might say, well, there's horrible injuries that could happen on a trip. There's horrible injuries that can happen anywhere. So you as a parent need to decide whether you're going to allow something like that. So I've decided clearly that we're going to put a trampoline in the backyard because they will play on that thing every single day. And that, again, neighbors from the neighborhood come over and all that stuff. So it's great. So we like it. And what that lands on spinal development. It lands on their nervous system developing in the way that is going to allow for their best function from the inside out. So if we're talking about them functioning well from the inside out, having proper hormones, proper neurotransmitters, feeling good, feeling happy, having great energy, digesting well, sleeping well, it really does start with their development of their nervous system. And so the way that their spine develops is a determining factor for how well their body functions. So the interference to that type of development can go all the way back from when they were born, with birth trauma, C-section deliveries, forceps, vacuum extractions. All of these can create these initial subluxations or misalignments in the spine that can result in interference to the nervous system. Then you look at the time they spend in car seats and carriers and bouncers and walkers and swings and bumbos and all this when they're really little. This is before they've developed the strength in their spine to be able to do something like a trampoline. All of that affects their spinal alignment and their ability to adapt within the nervous system. And so this is what ends up happening. With the neck and the upper part of the cervical spine, when there is a misalignment, especially in that upper cervical spine there, that affects the brainstem. So when we see kids that have sleeping issues or they are low energy, and you look at it, it's like they're eating the right foods, they're actually wanting to exercise and move around, something's just off, something's not quite right with this kid. You want to check their nervous system, and simple ways to check their nervous system is you look at their posture. And if you see a kid is in one of these like slouched forward postures, I just
sat up straighter.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to get close to the camera here, but like kids that are in these slouched forward postures, you see their shoulders start rolling forward like this. And a lot of that can have to do with screens, but even if they're not on screens, sometimes, again, this can happen from early interferences. That's going to create stress on their nervous system. If you see their head tilt, or if they're normally lying with one head, if their head facing one way and it's not comfortable going the other way, there could be a misalignment at the top of the neck, which affects everything down. So we look for these body imbalances and check the nervous system in these specific ways. So warning signs for whether a child could have nervous system interference and have chronic stress throughout their nervous system are these: pain. Kids should not be in pain, any pain at all. Headaches, back pain. Kids usually present with visceral complaints like functional issues, but if they are in pain, that is a big time warning sign of nervous system stress. Range of motion, so any differences from right to left, stiffness in their muscles, stiffness in their joints. If you notice that they're walking, one leg is swinging freely, the other leg is restricted. Abnormal postures like foot flares where the toes are pointed out or the toes are pointed in, like pigeon walking or pigeon-toed. Toe walking, if they're walking on their toes, that's actually a sign of upper cervical subluxation. Torticollis with the head tilt. If if one shoulder blade is higher than the other, that's a sign of a spinal alignment issue. And then you get into hyperactivity, bad balance, fatigue, not sleeping well. That's tension on the nervous system. Constipation, this is one of those that we see when stress comes off of the nervous system from getting adjusted. they they'll send us the text, hey, my kid pooped, and it's like the greatest text to see because it means stress has come off their nervous system. Bedwetting, there's a muscle that surrounds the bladder. If the hips are off and the lower back is shifted, the nerve to that muscle is affected, which is why they will continue to bedwet even into their older years, like 10, 11, 12 years old. Traumas, that's not just from tough delivery. Medical research found that this can be influenced by the position of the baby inside the womb. So you also have car accidents, falling off a bed, falling down steps, learning to walk. There's all these different falls. In most cases, we wipe the tears away. We say, oh, you're going to be okay. We kiss their knee and hope for the best. But these cause shifts in their spine. And if they aren't corrected or if they aren't detected early enough, then those shifts create imbalances into their late childhood and teen years. And then mental stress, spinal stress can exacerbate the stress of life and vice versa. So they'll actually carry the stresses from family and things that they're experiencing in their spine, and it will even further pull their spines out of alignment with the connection that's made there.
Thoughts, traumas, toxins.
Thoughts, traumas, toxins. And the thing about
and we teach that to our kids, like thoughts, traumas, toxins is very tangible, portable, that you can teach to your kids.
And when you look at stresses on the nervous system, it's the nervous system perceives stress from all three of those sources the same way. So it doesn't know the difference between a chemical stress, which could be from toxin or from bad foods. It doesn't know the difference between that and a stress from emotion. So there's the chemical, emotional, and physical, thoughts, traumas, toxins. That's another way of putting it. So emotional stress lands on the nervous system. And then a physical stress, like spine out of position, lands on the nervous system. And all of that can create this malfunction between the brain and body. And we want the brain to be talking to the gut and the gut be talking back to the brain. The heart, lungs, liver, kidney, spleen, muscles, bladder muscles, all of these, if they can talk back to the brain and the brain can properly communicate with them, then those can work well. This is where function comes from. It's the master control system of the entire body. So when you have somebody like Aiden here, and Aiden here was a child of one of our friends, and
we actually introduced his parents, which is really fun.
But then we find out he's dealing with asthma and allergies and already taking medications and inhalers. And it led to chronic ear infections throughout the whole childhood. And we're at the point now where 1 in 12 children are dealing with asthma. And it bothers me. I see my friends' kids on inhalers, and they can't play with other kids because their lungs are so weak. And then they need these drugs to just keep them breathing. And there's these studies done that show that using corticosteroid inhalers, anti-inflammatory drugs for asthma, it increases the risk of heart disease by up to 70%. That was from the University of Dundee. And drugs can't be the answer, but chiropractic is. And when you look at the root cause of asthma and where it comes from, stress on the nervous system, if you look at this, there's research from the Spine Posture Institute, and that's in Japan. And Japanese people do a good job with research. It shows that misaligned vertebrae or subluxations were found to disrupt nerve flow to the organs and glands, causing asthma, allergies, hay fever, and long-lasting infections. These patients had their spines realigned, which opened the nerve channels and took pressure off of the spinal cord and nerves. Up to 88% of these patients had greatly improved or total correction of their condition. So show me a drug on the market that can produce even those results and then prove that it has no side effects, but only positive effects on the kids functioning. And so that bothers me that parents don't know that, parents don't understand that they don't know stories like Aiden. With Aiden here, he had stress on his cervical spine. He had no idea until we took this x-ray. Couldn't really tell what caused it to go forward like that on the left and how it straightened out. But he had played sports, he had falls and all the different things that any normal kid does. But after just a few months of care, his spine realigned. It got pressure off of his spinal cord. came off of the inhaler, was breathing better, lungs working better, which led to more energy, more confidence, being able to oxygenate his muscles. And now the kid is an absolute monster. He's a beast on the football field. He's setting records in his high school for track. And all of that is possible because we were able to get pressure off of his nervous system. His body did the healing. We didn't do the healing. And that's the key philosophy there. We don't consider ourselves to be the healers. Aiden is the healer from the inside out. His nervous system healed the issue. We just helped him get pressure off of it and remove the interference. So that's just one story. There's lots of stories, though. You've got Gavin here, actually had seizures. No more seizures, headaches, better with regular, consistent care. Carter's another one here, headaches every day, and to no more headaches at all. And his neck doesn't hurt anymore. Just a great story. Mason here, another one with headaches. Kids should not have headaches. No more neck pain and no more bedwetting. That's with consistent pediatric chiropractic care that is neurological based. So you have lots of different warning signs like that we talked about, but something to just touch on is when it comes to babies in the womb and how to best care for a baby that is in the womb. If you want to touch on those experiences when Janelle was pregnant
and we birthed our babies.
when we birthed our babies, we made sure to take care of muscles and joints and not just keeping the spine aligned or the muscles relaxed for comfort, but for alignment so that the baby had the best possible outcome.
Yeah. And so being really diligent with making sure that I was getting adjusted from a Webster certified chiropractor that was certified in Webster's technique to support the muscles that are helping me carry a baby. And so all of our doctors are Webster certified here at Rivertown. And that's something that we're really passionate about because it was a super important part of my pregnancies.
Yeah. So when the pelvis is misaligned, if it's shifted out of alignment, it causes ligaments to torque on the sides. So that compromises the space that the baby is in. Baby can end up going into a breech presentation because it just can't turn that way around because there's a blockage with that ligament. And then the structural defects that can come from intrauterine constraint, which is cranial bone malformation, where the bones are actually overlapping on the skull, or craniofacial alterations, even congenital hip dysplasia because the position of the baby's hips going through this process because they're constrained by these ligaments. So again, that's where a good Webster certified chiropractor comes in to help to get those realigned so that it can balance out before getting into late third trimester, and so they can have a good
and being
labor
really
and
diligent
delivery.
with just a variety of movement during pregnancy. Really committed to 100 squats a day up until the day I had our babies. And committed to walking and moving and sitting on a ball all the time in our living room, especially third trimester, and no couch slouch, because that's a big no-no for messing up baby positioning. So really diligent with that.
Warning signs for babies: inability to latch, favoring one side. If they're spitting up a ton all the time, that's a warning sign. Again, these are issues that we see as chiropractors we can help these issues as chiropractors. These aren't just warning signs for poor health. These are warning signs for nervous system stress due to specific spinal misalignment.
And we've been here in Grand Rapids for almost 10 years, and every single one of those, I can think of at least 2 or 3 testimonials of babies that have come up with these issues and seen resolve through chiropractic care.
Oh yeah, dozens for each of these. So constipation and sleeping issues and breathing problems and recurrent ear infections. And there's research and there's reasoning for all of these, but I think just as parents, just to know that these are some of the key warning signs that we see. So we're going to get into foods. We're going to talk about nutrition here.
So we talked a little bit about God-made foods, man-made foods, but we are so diligent about talking about our kids, about nutrient-dense foods that give you high energy for longer, foods that are made by God, made by man, and doing everything we can to infuse nutrition principles on a daily basis at each meal. So we see the dinner table as a training ground, and that's a dinner table is a training ground for discipline issues, obviously, for patience, for sitting together, for community, for listening to someone else share something about their day while you share about your day, but also as a training ground for nutrition, and for us to talk about what you put in your mouth directly affects how your body functions and what activity you're able to do.
Yeah, so like we could just say, well, let's just feed them what we used to eat when we were young, or what our parents used to eat, or whatever. But foods are different now than they used to be.
We are testing on a generation.
Yeah, so the foods are lower in nutrients now, and especially if you're not doing everything organic and pasture raised and grass fed and all that, you can end up feeding kids foods that are the same types of foods as we used to have, with a fraction of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and all of that. Especially if we go with the processed foods. And so some processed foods to be aware of. Yowzers is right. And you just look at this slide, it's like, oh, these all look very familiar to me, but these are not a healthy way to go about childhood. You look at pop in the upper left corner there, and there's not really anything good about it. There's 50 grams of sugar in a can of pop. The diet ones aren't necessarily better. There's aspartame, which can be toxic to the brains if you have enough of it. So we don't buy it anymore. It's just not something that we have in our house. Even juices, although it's like fruit juice, we're not talking about fresh juicing vegetables. This is sugary fruit juice. If you have enough of this, then it can create that insulin response, and it's it's just not a whole lot of nutrients that we're getting from that.
So we've got some basic principles that we're just committed to. Is this my principle when I talk about this?
Yeah,
right now? Is the basic principles that we are committed to in our house. We don't eat anything that comes out of a window. That is just a principle that our kids know. If food comes out of a window, it's not real food. And so they know that, they understand that. That is a solid yellow lines. Solid yellow lines, right? The ones we don't pass, that's solid yellow.
Double yellow lines.
Double yellow lines.
You pass a solid.
Okay, double yellow lines. We don't eat anything that comes out a window. And they know that principle. They also know the principle of food dyes. Obviously, it's really easy from 0 to 5 to kind of control what your kids eat. And then they step into school, and there's birthday treats, and there's, oh, what was Carrie yesterday? Oh, I shot a basket and I got a piece of candy for my teacher, And so one of the ways we help them make those decisions has to do with food dyes. We do not eat food dyes. This is what they do to your brain. This is what they do to your gut. This is what they do to your cells. And so when you are making a decision on food, because someone's offering you something, we don't eat food dyes. That takes the drinks, the sugary drinks, the Gatorades, really out of the conversation. God doesn't make red drinks like that. Those, we don't drink that. And so we have ways that we flavor waters. We have ways that we make drinks that don't just taste like water, but we do not do food dyes. And so just some non-negotiable principles that our kids know and can follow and be empowered with.
Yeah, just make a rule. Make a rule about it. And if you want to change something in your own life, make a rule. I don't do this. I only do this. And it's like fast food. We don't go to fast food. It's just not. So if we drive by it, it's not an option. And if you're saying, well, how do we change a rule? Is it possible to change a rule? Yes, it is. And if you just make a hard line, say, hey, from now on, we are not doing this. And then all it takes is a few instances of, well, can't we just stop at Chick-fil-A? Can't we just stop at McDonald's like we always used to? Oh, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. Create the identity out of it for your family. Our family's identity is that we eat life-giving foods. Our family's identity is that we eat God-made foods. It's that we, we don't eat food dyes is just a rule. So just create the rule out of it.
We don't eat hot lunch at school. There's another.
Yep,
we don't eat hot lunch at school.
We don't do hot lunch, guys. So we got to send you with something.
Now, there's a few times a year where they do a pizza fundraiser and they bring in pizza from Pepino. Fine, have a slice of pizza, great. But we don't do hot lunch. And so whatever those standards are, we're really committed to.
Which, by the way, if a 5-year-old can uphold those standards, and a 5-year-old can follow them, then
so can adults.
Then so can adults. So you can make a rule for yourself that says, I don't eat fast food. No matter what, no matter how much time I don't have or whatever, that's a rule for me, because again, it's caught, not taught. Nutrition is something that they are going to do what they see you do. They're going to eat what they see you eat. You can't say, hey, we don't eat chips around here. and you're just crunching on, that.
So as you're sitting here today, don't take 5 applications and say, I'm instilling these all in my kids tomorrow. Make a chart of the rest of the year. You've got 5 months left of 2023. Okay, what are we going to commit to in September, in October, in November, and December, and lay out your action steps so that your family your family gets on board, you get on board, you guys adapt to them. And there's not a big, strong jerk of the wheel in one direction.
And I would always encourage adding before eliminating. So if they're so used to eating a certain snack in their lunch, okay, like you got to pick your battles. Maybe keep that snack in there, but add in something different for what they're eating for lunch. And so when it comes to lunches, think protein forward first. So this would be that addition.
It's true for adults and kids, protein forward, because that's the thing that's probably going to be most lacking for kids, because they're going to gravitate towards the carbs. They're going to gravitate towards the sugary things. But if you can just make it more habitual for them to see that there is protein in their lunch, whether it's meats or even organic dairy, or cutting up a bunch of chicken breast ahead of time, if they have to dip it into something for them to eat it, like, fine, get the protein in their bodies, because that's going to give them that lasting energy, give them the amino acids to produce the different hormones and neurotransmitters they need in their bodies. They need the micronutrients from the good, healthy foods. So protein forward, quality carbohydrates. So veggies and berries. We're a big fan of putting berries, apple slices. One of our kids likes pickles, so it's like, here, have a pickle. Other kids don't really like it, but cutting things up into small pieces. You can put toothpicks in there and different ways to make it fun for them so that they can be more tactile about it. Those are all good ideas. Good fats as well. So, putting things in there that help them with long-term energy and focus, like the guacamole little packets, or sliced olives if they're into that. And let's recruit them to be a part of the process, right? This isn't mom makes lunch and you eat what mom makes. This is we make lunch together and we make educated decisions together in each of these categories.
Yeah, when it comes to what should they be drinking, this is something that you could change right away. This is one of those that you just make the switch. We drink water at school. So getting a good solid water bottle that doesn't leak, and that's their dedicated water bottle, and they fill it every morning, and that's what they take to school. That's what they drink. Then they're not going towards the super sugary drink and ending up crashing in the afternoon and having a miserable time the rest of their day at school.
I think too, this is about lunch, but just meals in general. So we are big in options as it relates to vegetables, and really making sure that we are infusing vegetables into our kids' diet. So one of the ways we do that is I try and serve 2 vegetables at every meal, because we're not going to fight that you're not going to eat your vegetables. You get to decide. We've got carrots, celery, and broccoli. Like, I don't care which one you eat, but eat it. And so I'm being really diligent in options at each meal. We're also really big at when we sit down. I don't know about you guys, the hardest time to feed our kids good food is when they are like ravenous, right? They are just like starving. You sit down at a restaurant, you've been waiting to grab a table and they are starving. Or you're at your house, we're out for the day, you come home, you still have to prep. Dinner will be 30 minutes and they are so hungry. And so we are big on salad out right away or veggies out right away. So when we sit down at a restaurant and we have hungry kids, we say, great, waters for everyone and a really big Caesar salad or a really big Cobb salad. And we are sharing that and nibbling on that while our food is being prepared. Also at home, like before I start prepping that 30-minute dinner, I'm throwing down a charcuterie board with some cheese and crackers and celery and carrots, and like they can nibble on this and not get ravenous. Ravenous? Am I saying the word?
Yeah, I've just used it like 3 times.
Oh, okay.
So
and not get famished. What's another word?
You want to be ravenous about micronutrients. So like get them to just gobble down micronutrients when it comes to when they're hungry. So like if my kids are hungry, it's here, eat a grass-fed beef stick. They're super expensive and we hate that about them, but it is such good nutrition, in my opinion, that it's worth it. And then it's filling, it's protein forward, it's giving them amino acids in food form that the body is recognizing. in a whole food snack. And so it's like, that's the go-to when they're hungry. It's not a sugary snack. So think micronutrients, get them full on that stuff first. Think protein forward, because if they can get their micronutrients in, their bodies can do the rest. It can go to work and do the healthy thing that it needs to do. And it can deal with the metabolic challenges from toxins and from sugary foods, because it has the micronutrients. They have the micronutrients to allow their cells to carry out the processes that they're meant to carry out.
Okay, you ready for this? And then have a cheat meal with your kids. Like, help them see what's normal. Like, help them see that every once in a while we order a big pizza and we have pizza together as a family.
Yeah.
You know, and so
like when we put the Christmas tree up, it's like it's a
that's a tradition.
It's a tradition.
Yes.
We order Jet's Pizza. We just scarf down an enormous Jet's Pizza the night that we put our Christmas tree up, and it's like, yeah, it's a treat and all that stuff. Ice cream, like
we get ice cream.
Take them out to ice cream all summer long, but we're thinking micronutrients, protein forward. Let's plan out the meals, but then let's enjoy ice cream. And really, honestly, it's not the ice cream and the sugar that's going to affect them as badly as it's the inflammatory oils. And so by staying away from the inflammatory oils, which is from the boxed foods, the processed foods, if you see on a box or a snack or something that says sunflower oil or vegetable oil or canola oil or expeller pressed canola, whatever, like that is going to damage their metabolism, damage their bodies, damage their mood and their sleep and their hormones way more than the sugar will. Again, their bodies are on turbo mode for their metabolism. They can handle a certain amount of sugar. They can handle more sugar than we can, and they're not going to gain weight from it. But it's when we get too much into those inflammatory oils, that the seed oils, that's when you're going to see a lot of those metabolic issues. So in the mindset of like working micronutrients into them, one of our weapons is super yogurt. So you get a good full fat grass-fed plain yogurt. You throw frozen berries in there for all the antioxidants. You throw a good protein powder. We like the Pure Path protein. It tastes amazing. Some of our kids like vanilla, some of our kids like chocolate, so we kind of need to stock both of them, but lasts a long time. And then put a scoop of Max Greens, so then they're getting the vegetables. So it's like they don't need to sit down and eat vegetables if we know we're giving them a super yogurt at some point throughout the day, whether it's in the morning or an evening snack, which has Max Greens in it, because that's got your vegetable intake. And then the probiotic, which now is a tablet that we recommend, and you can sneak anything in there and as long as it tastes okay with the berries and the protein, kind of drive the flavor of that. If you need to, put a little swirl of raw honey on there, add some sugar to it if it means they're going to be scarfing down protein and Max Greens. And it's just so helpful.
In your pantry, you're sitting with a basket in your pantry that has all these things. So your kids can now do it together, do it on themselves. So when they get 7, 8, 9, there's a basket for yogurt in the pantry for them to just pull out and add all their things. For us, that's in our breakfast rotation. We have a breakfast chart, so there's no questions about breakfast. I hate fighting about food with kids at 6:45 in the morning. So there's breakfast chart. This is the day we have protein-packed pancakes. This is the day we have smoothie. This day, eggs and sausage. This day, super yogurt, and it is just laid out for the week. And that is a huge way that we win our week, but also consistently get this yogurt in them.
Yep, and again, get the baseline for your kids' nutrition. Get them up to the baseline so all the holes are filled, the deficiencies are filled. And if they have all the micronutrients they need, the vitamins and minerals especially, that is going to allow them to express health. So if you are low on nutrients, start with just filling the holes. And that's where, we're not huge into tons of supplements, especially for kids, but we like to say, do your best and then supplement the rest. Do your best, supplement the rest. I believe all children nowadays should be taking a quality multivitamin. So just to cover your bases for the kids' nutrients. So the Max Kids multivitamin, it's this little pink like sweet tart, and the kids love it. we give it out to Aaliyah, our 3-year-old. We give her 4 of them, and she goes and distributes it to the other siblings, and she feels very important. But they all love it, and they chew it up. It tastes amazing. just ask to try one next time you're in the office yourself. It tastes really good. It's designed for kids, any kids 1 or older, chewable tablet. It's got all the bioavailable vitamins and minerals, meaning it's a food-based multivitamin, so recognized by your body as food vitamins. And it's naturally sweetened with xylitol, which is great. So it's not added, it doesn't have added cane sugar or sweeteners or fructose. There's no artificial colors or flavors. And it even has fermented superfoods in it. So that gives you the prebiotics to improve the kid's gut health, to prepare for the probiotic. And so really the only major two that we're giving out are the multivitamin and the probiotic. Probiotic giving their gut the necessary microbiome to flourish and allow for good bacteria to be boosting their immunity and connecting from their gut-brain axis. All the things we've talked about in all these other workshops, but bottom line is they need a good probiotic, they need a good multivitamin. We're not going to get into tons of other supplements unless they absolutely need them. The multi is pink, the probiotic's white. So they say 1 pink, 1 white, and they take both of them. They both taste good, and it's simple and easy, and they do it every day. Yeah. So that's a no-brainer, and it's a simple way.
And if you've been listening to us for the last hour and you feel like you're winning nutrition at home, you feel like your kids are getting adjusted and you're still noticing some issues, there might be a more serious gut issue going on with your kids that might need to be investigated. And so reach out. We'd love to set up a consult with you and maybe do some additional testing to figure out, is there something going on that we need to spend some time on, and maybe look into some additional supplements.
Yeah, because even if you do good nutrition and they're exercising and they're off of screens and everything, toxins that have built up in a child's body can create dysfunction. Toxins can interfere with cell signaling. It can interfere with nutrient absorption. It can interfere with that gut microbiome. And so minimizing toxins is one key to it, but also detoxifying the body if they need it already. But the same theory holds true as with adults, the toxic bucket theory. So this bucket starts to fill when you're a child, when you're a baby.
And it also transfers from your mom's gut biome.
So it's even coming in from
some my gut biome transferred to.
Heavy metals, for example. Read a study that lead actually passes through the mother's placenta from 4 generations. So your great grandmother, if she had lead poisoning, it transfers to a baby today. And so the baby starts with a certain amount of lead in their body, and that affects the brain and nervous system. Not to mention you have toxins from mold or from air pollution, or you have toxins from the water and chemicals and cleaning products and from foods and from just all these different areas that slowly start to build up, and you rarely will see it manifest as symptoms in these little kids. But we need to be aware that what we are doing is we're setting up their bucket for when they're adults. And one of my goals, I think of this chart actually, it's like I want my kids' buckets to be as empty as possible when they leave the house and go off to college or whatever they're going to do. I want to at least say that I didn't toxify my children with the decisions that we were making. And we are continually in a detoxifying flow throughout their childhood.
And so the 2 biggest ways that in my head, as I'm parenting and kind of thinking about how do we reduce toxic load, kids take in toxins from their skin and from their lungs. So I'm constantly thinking, what are we putting on our kids' skin? What kind of sunscreens, bug sprays, what products are we using in our house that kids are touching and playing with a lot, hand sanitizers, all of that, that we are minimizing toxins in the touch concept. What kind of bubble bath are we using? What kind of shampoos are we using? Anything that touches our kids' skin, we are ultra diligent with. And so super big into EWG, which is the organization that rates all products. And so we stick to 1s and 2s for kids' skin. So diligent. I'd say with Mark and I, some of our products bump up to a 3, but ideally with kids, you're at that 1 to 2 in anything that touches their skin all day long.
Yeah, it's not so much what to trust, because then you have to know about every single company.
I don't have time for that.
It's who to trust. Yes. And we've found EWG.org to be, that's our who to trust. The other who to trust is all the parents that you see at RFC that work here, we are here for you. We are making very strict decisions for our kids' products, and we're always learning more about toxins and minimizing toxins and what ingredients are what. So you can just ask any one of us, and we'll give you insights. Posting a question on the motivation group or commenting on this thread here with a question you have about a certain product, and we will answer those. We want to be a resource for you. We want to be messengers of truth, not just in philosophy, but in the practical as well, and tell you exactly what we do.
And I think the other big toxic piece with our kids is what they breathe. And so we're really big into no air fresheners, no perfumes, no weird scents in cars. When we rent a car, like we will call and say, hey, can you not spray air fresheners before you give us this car? When we rent a hotel room, we're like, hey, when we in an Airbnb, I'm messaging, hey, we don't want any artificial perfumes. We want all the air fresheners taken out of the home beforehand, because that stuff is that other toxic bucket piece that we're really focused on and really diligent with our kids.
Yeah, you're not going to see symptoms, but I'm thinking of their buckets. I'm thinking of our buckets too, because when it does overflow, that's when it leads to the chronic disease. That's when it leads to the nervous system crashes, the depression, the anxiety, the low energy and fatigue, and eventually the autoimmune diseases, and even down the road, the cancers. It does start somewhere. And so we're thinking about our kids' toxic buckets, their lifelong buckets, even as kids. With sunscreens, we say yes to the mineral sunscreens, the ones that are physical barriers to the sun. The chemical ones actually get into your skin. And why does it take about 20 minutes for it to set in? Because it's chemically changing your body's response to the sun. So it's actually going straight to your bloodstream, enters into your nervous system, and it's overriding your body's ability to detect that there is sun. That's why it helps you not burn, because it's overriding chemically. I would rather something that was on my skin that was just a physical barrier to the sun, even though it's almost impossible to get off in the shower and all that stuff. But you guys get the idea. It's still better for you. There's some good brands as well. Great. If you do know that your kid's toxic, or you do know that there's problems, and you've been following the nutrition, you've done the exercise, you've done the multivitamin, and there's just another layer that they need. Consider heading into the world of some supplements for kids that are herbal, like tinctures that are specifically designed to naturally and gently detoxify the kid's body, detoxify the gut, support the immune system. And these are again natural. It is we've used several of these different ones. The belly, the calm, the happy, those have worked great for our kids for different seasons.
And here's the thing, although they're kids supplements, they're strong. And so there are some kids that don't respond great to them. So I'd recommend taking them alongside one of our team members, set up a consult, and we can have some conversations about what needs your kids have, what you're noticing. And we can see if one of these is a good match for your family.
Yes, these are the BioRay products that have worked great for so many kids. So yeah, set up a consult. Happy to do that. And what's great about these is they taste good. So most of them taste good. They taste good. They're really easy to take, and the kids will actually take them on their own if you teach them. I remember just when one of our kids was going through this, we said, hey, did you do your drops? Yep, I did my drops. And they know exactly how to do it and how much of it to take, and it tastes fine, and it becomes just a really simple and easy thing.
So when we were like, what are we going to talk about? We're like, oh, we have 25 hours. Okay, great. Let's talk about everything we're passionate about with parenting. But no, we wanted to kind of jam pack this today into 75 minutes and pick just the biggest things that we're focused on right now in parenting. And there are obviously a lot more that we're passionate about in different seasons. I think for me as a mom, I identify what season I'm in parenting. And maybe you're in a season where it's time to focus on nutrition. Like, it is time this fall to up your game in nutrition in your home. It is time to get really strict with snacks, get really strict with an eating schedule. I'm feeling that going into the school year. We've kind of had that summer, like, oh yeah, just grab a snack. Like, what time's dinner? I don't really know. We're kind of stepping into a schedule. Our kids are back at school. And being really diligent in our reset of what's happening in our home nutritionally. For you, maybe it's, hey, I got to detox. We got to do some detoxifying in the products we're using, what we're using to clean, what we're putting on our kids' skin. And that's the season you're entering. So if you take it all on, we get overwhelmed, right?
Mhm.
And so pick the lane that you need to focus on this quarter, and then label what the next lane is and say, okay, this quarter I'm focused on nutrition. Next quarter, I'm going to focus on toxifying. This is a marathon. Building health in our bodies is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a one-time webinar. It's not, I'm going to make 3 changes this week and be good to go forever. We are running a marathon together, and we are making decisions together for our health that affect generationally impacts our kids. And so make some commitments this quarter for you and your family.
And the key word that she just said was together. Not only is this a marathon, but it's something that we're meant to do together in community. And so being a part of a community is, I've seen, the most powerful thing that has helped us make these decisions. We get this Max Living bubble around us of parents that are thinking this way and in this type of philosophy, and staying away from medications, not wanting more doctor visits, not wanting more interventions, but wanting to help their children express health from the inside out naturally. And we get to be around parents who do that. And the thing is, that's what we're fostering at RFC, is a community of parents that want to learn more about that and be encouraged with each other. So utilize this Facebook group, utilize our team when you come into the office. These are the things that we love to talk about. So we're here for you. We're here to help. We want you to have that community of fellow natural health crunchy moms, if you want to call it. But we're proud to be crunchy moms and dads because we are putting our kids' future first. So be encouraged. Don't be overwhelmed. Do one little thing at a time. Change one thing every 2 weeks. If you need a timeline to make this happen, don't change more than one thing every 2 weeks. And then you'll eventually notice that by the end of 1 year, all these different things have changed for the better. Your kids are on a good rhythm and a flow with it, and you're seeing the results. So we're here for you. Join the community, and we love you. We'll see you for your next visit. Have a great day.